how yesterday I made a huge video about how I don't believe that Itzaland has a unified identity? Well, I want to keep the speculation going this week in general, and I want to propose some theories and talk about how I think Infold deals with Infinity Nikki's game development, because we have received something in May, something that I didn't have time to talk about during the previous patch cycle, but I do want to. We had received two separate lectures inside like a game event by Infold staff that address how they run the game and how they make things. And I wanted to make two separate videos talking about both of these write-ups by just like focusing on very specific parts that stood out to me and talking about what I infer from them myself. Now, mind you, you might say that I'm reaching, that it's just like a word thing, that maybe I misunderstood something. This is why I'm just saying that all of this is theory. None of this is like confirmed. None of this is just my way of thinking about this. And I think that with these articles, you should go and read them yourself if you're interested in that sort of thing, because I really am. The article that we're going to be looking at today, in particular, not tomorrow, just today, is it's Infinity Nikki's art director that talks about how they approach making banner outfits and, well, how they approach the art direction of the game, though he was mostly talking about the dress-up aspect of it, of a dress-up game. And I'm just gonna give you an example of me being like the English teacher that completely overanalyzes an entirely harmless poem by showing what I mean by, with some of these statements I will probably be reaching, but that's how the text appears to me. In my heart, Infinity Nikki is an open world that uses clothing to paint dreams. Compared to previous entries in the series, the open world setting sharpens the backdrop of those dreams from a hazy blur to crystal clear. The way that I see this is that the art director that's in charge of Infinity Nikki sees the game as being dress up first and open world second, because open world serves as the backdrop for your banners. You see how you can say that I'm reaching with this statement, but for me this is kind of eye-opening, because a lot of their areas, especially 2.5 onwards, they feel like they're meant for taking pictures in. They're meant to appear picturesque, and they're meant to be good photo shoot locations. I'm not entirely like super sure about 2.0, because with that one we kind of had the whole jungle thing going, and honestly it's kind of hard to find good places to take pictures inside the jungle. 2.5 is very picturesque, and 2.6 has very beautiful dungeons, so you know it fits there. And sometimes when I run into a place in Infinity Nikki, I go, wow, this feels like it was meant to be a photo prop location. And I think if that is coming into design consideration, that does make a lot of sense. Now, there is a lot of speak about designing the two 2.0 outfits. I think 2.0 was the patch cycle that they were allowed to talk about. It is a bit weird because they're talking about this, they're giving this lecture at just about when 2.5 dropped, and these articles were kind of used as 2.5 ad, as in they released it about the same time as the patch and people were directed to play Infinity Nikki. So it's kind of weird that they're talking about 2.0, but it's okay. The Holy Maiden is wearing her splendid imprisonment through behind prayers, as this is a chapter that talks about the design of behind prayers. The initial starting point for this outfit's design was a human girl chosen to be a holy maiden. Speaking of this, I'm sure many Holy Maiden characters or themed outfits have popped up into your heads, right? Everyone loves creating around this theme, but how do we make it unique and impressive? Therefore, before we started drawing, the first thing we did was discuss with our writing colleagues to deepen the lore and determine the main color tone for this dream. So the story unfolded further. This girl was elected by her people, and she dedicated her entire life to them, praying day and night in a high tower. This is quite interesting, as it sounds like the banner designers are not getting like the full story. They're getting the vague prompt, and then they're going to the writers to discuss how to expand that vague prompt. And I'm wondering, is this related to how they write patch stories? Or is this more related about how they write the descriptions for the outfits? What comes first, the outfit design or the story being written? Because it seems that by the time when they're starting the outfit design, the story being written is fairly in its infancy. There is another small consideration inside the statement that has really stood up with me, because I'm gonna overanalyze this text to all hell and back. This girl was elected by her people. I think that the original story beat here was not supposed to be about mushrooms. I might be reaching, but I think it was supposed to have human characters, especially if this is supposed to be her people. You could say that, well, mushrooms have adopted her, but the story that we kind of got was that she is a goddess, and she's positioned as this maiden figure in this religion in its infancy, practically the moment about the same time as when she enters like the lives of mushrooms. So I'm not entirely sure that mushrooms can be considered to be her people. Also, you know how during 1.0 we didn't like get banner outfits inside the story, and later on we would get the banner outfit, like limited banner outfit previews inside the story? Well, this article speaks about it. At the same time, to allow the audience to quickly enter the dream, so like the imagined scene, the feel, the look, the moment this outfit is put on in the game, we have Nikki perform a sequence that echoes the concept very immersively. This replaces the traditional functional poses that mainly show off clothing details, further expressing the narrative and emotional design of the outfit. So what the art director is saying is that they're deepening your emotional investment in the game and in the outfit by putting the outfit directly in the story, where it can serve its function and show off the exact story and emotional beats that they're trying to convey. What I slightly don't understand about that is they weren't using this in 1.0, but quite specifically when we're talking about 2.0, Born Flawless felt like such a oversight in this whole idea of showing off what the outfit is, because yes, Behind Prayers flashes briefly inside the story patch right at the start where she like faints and everything. So you see it in a more conceptual story manner. Born Flawless only comes in for like 10 seconds directly at the end, as Infinity Nikki is telling young mushrooms a story. So I'm like, okay, weird to use this as an article where you're talking about how you engage people emotionally by putting banners directly into the story, because I feel like you kind of did a disservice with one of the banners that you're using as an example here. So I have to assume that they had to talk about a very specific point inside the game's lifespan for these lectures, and that was determined, and they couldn't like select their own patch cycles to talk about. We are now in the section where they talk about outfit abilities. I'm gonna specifically highlight this one part. When we design the visual representation of outfit abilities, aside from functional rationality, we also pay attention to the unification of feeling and concept. Even with the same type of ability during design, we combine different clothing design concepts to create different artistic expressions. The selection and design of abilities is also a further reinforcement to elevate the emotional value of clothing, because the ability itself is serving as a reinforcement of the concept of the clothing. I think that what they're trying to say is that outfit design and look comes first, and the selection of ability comes second, depending on what makes sense for the outfit design and look. Now, my question here would be, why is Sinfold so not inspired by the idea of fish? Because we kind of desperately need a fishing outfit in the game by this point. Everybody was kind of waiting for one to allow us to like fish very easily. So like, can you like get inspired by some very watery and very fishy place? Thank you. Thank you very much. But outside of that, it is quite interesting to see where their thought process starts. Environment is a backdrop. The ability comes after the design, and at the time when the outfit starts the design, it seems that the story only has a vague story beat that the outfit design team and the writers work on together, which kind of suggests that the dress comes very early on in the patch cycle, and then everything else kind of incorporates that wave of thought. Now, I do have a couple of thoughts here. Mostly, I wonder if they have any one person that goes, so the vibe of the place is this, so the dress should express this thought through this feel. Because from what they're describing in the design philosophy right now, it doesn't seem like that would be the case. And I think that's why the banners, to me, in Ipsiland feel a bit disjointed when it comes to grasping the overall theme and topic of Ipsiland. Though it doesn't quite explain to me why it wasn't so in Wishfield. Like, Wishfield's base outfit design and overall Wishfield's vibe for 1.0, it kind of matched. So it kind of made a lot more sense design-wise. So that's just something to think about, I suppose. For all I know, their creative design process is fairly chaotic, and therefore there has not been a person actually unifying all of this. It has just landed in a way that it felt a lot more unified in Wishfield. They do, however, seem to consider the environmental design and the theme of the whole thing, at least to some extent, when designing the outfits, because it seems that they're incorporating the whole idea of Mirrorland into designing these outfits and are thinking about how they would work inside Mirrorland. To quote, "Therefore, in Infinity Nikki, we need an immersive world that makes people believe enough that clothing is a dream. Clothing is not just a carrier for system gameplay, but making clothing truly a part of the world's ecosystem, we make this world that loves dressing up and styling more immersive and credible, which also forms the unique worldview of Infinity Nikki. For example, in Infinity Nikki, you'll see that outfits with bee-related themes use hexagonal patterns. Why is that? Honeycombs are hexagonal? As Earthlings, you might think so, but the people of Mirrorland don't design it for this reason. The answer is very simple, because the bees in Mirrorland are exactly hexagonal. Furthermore, in Mirrorland, which values the power of styling, clothing style is an important part of the national settings. We've researched various traditional cultural costumes, and people in each region will have their own local styles and attributes that they excel at. I wonder if Itzalan just feels odd for the sake of being odd then, because we have isolationist Bergsolians and then we have mushroom people that can't really wear much clothes, so it's hard to display clothes on mushrooms. I also wonder if their statements only apply to the NPCs inside the world, or whether that applies to banner designs. I understand that you would incorporate material that's more present in the world in banner designs, but just it doesn't quite feel like we're copying the Parksolian style in the current banner designs, the same way that it didn't quite feel like we're running with the mushroom style during 2.0 to 2.4. It feels like Nikki's banners sorta don't go line in line with the population, and the banners are the parts that I'm concerned about the most because that's the clothes that we receive. That's not the clothes that the NPCs wear. So the statements that they put out here, from what I understand, it means that when we do get another themed place, be it Sisha, be it Whaleport, be it any other place, they will have NPCs that will look appropriate for location. However, I don't know if this means that our banners will follow the vibe of location. I, once again, don't know if they have a person that goes, for banner design, here is the concept of the story, and here's the vibe that you're running with, or whether they just have, here's the concept for the story, and the vibe is yours to play around with. But that would also suggest that during 1.8 and 2.2, which was more Ling Lang styled patches, they hit the theme on the nose on accident? And I don't think that that could have happened. So once again, Itzaland is just such a weird outlier for me when it comes to outfits that I really wonder what is happening deeper inside the art department and how this whole process for design is working. Like this gives me quite a few answers. Like I do get an insider's view and I do appreciate that. I love this kind of stuff. But it doesn't quite answer enough, because even if like you look at the examples of specifically other stylists like designing and you having access to that style and so on. We're talking about Hometown Breeze, which is once again from 1.0, and I feel like outfits from that period kind of match the vibe better than Itzaland's outfits are matching Itzaland, but that could be because Itzaland is confused about its own identity, and we're gonna have stronger entries later on. It could just have nothing to do with the whole banner outfit making process. They do talk about a little bit that they are running into trouble with animating the outfits. Quite specifically, they need the outfits to behave one way when you're running and one way when you're standing still, and also that they're limited with how much bones they can place inside the outfit. Just like boning is like the thing that allows it to bend and move in specific ways, because you need this game to run on mobiles, PS5, and PC. So obviously there are some technical limitations. Quite specifically, the rich environment of the open world gives clothing more display space, but also brings challenges. In order to make the dynamic performance of clothing vivid and natural, while maintaining a beautiful and dreamy shape, the team created a lot of targeted content. For instance, for the ribbons of the outfit Tide of Tears, we adopted a hybrid solution of cloth physics and bone physics, and added an adaptive dynamic control system. During running movements, as it is given a silky smoothness fluttering in the wind while standing still, the shape control ensures the ribbons can maintain the original form of the clothing, preserving an elegant frame as if in water. We also frequently encounter situations where clothing needs to display an active swaying and fluttering dynamic. Normal physics and wind effects cannot satisfy this performance, and limited by device performance, the number of bones is restricted. Art and Programming TA jointly developed and integrated an active dynamic fluttering cloth and ribbon system to solve such effect issues involving complex dynamics. Whether it is static materials or dynamic performance, we base our work on real-world logic combined with artistic processing in the game, striving to achieve a realistic, delicate yet beautiful and dreamy feeling rather than setting. I wonder if the system that they have to use for optimization purposes is why I am really having trouble with some outfits being unwearable with practically any set of shoes, including the ones that they came with, because the shoes go through the outfit when you're running, or is that just unrelated to the performance and these were just not quite tested? So yeah, that has been my highlights and my takeaways from the whole speech that the art director has given to us, that is. My main takeaway is that the banner design seems to be coming very early on into the story, and that the banner design people have quite a lot of freedom when it comes to how to design the banner. Perhaps, in my opinion, perhaps too much freedom, considering that we didn't really get any Ixalan themed banners during the whole of Ixalan. You can say that we sort of did thematically when it comes to the patch, like the current 5-star makes sense with the whole flowers in the region, but outwardly it's still a ball gown in what was supposed to be a fairly culturally diverse place when it comes to engaging design. So once again, this whole thing is very interesting because the speech that the art director has given to us has left me with more questions than answers. Still, I appreciate the look into their process of making the game. Please tell me if you think that my guesses are right and wrong, especially with the idea that mushrooms were probably not the intended inhabitants of Ixalan, considering the whole Holy Maiden storyline. And tell me what you gotten out of the article yourself. And once again, if you haven't read it yet, I do suggest going and doing that. So the full article is available in the comment section down below. Thank you for my video. Thank you for watching my video, that is. I seem to be really struggling with words right now, and I don't know why. I'm tripping on like every third one. Tomorrow, we're gonna talk about the insights that we get from the level designer. And trust me, if this one has left me with more questions than answers, the article about the level designer has left me entirely perplexed, because it seems that their design philosophy is kind of contradicting what they're telling us inside the article about level design. So you can look forward to that. We're still gonna analyze that article as well. If Infinity Nikki released these kind of articles all the time, I probably wouldn't bother analyzing, but this was kind of a special thing. To see people high up in their job give a presentation about their job and about the design decisions inside Infinity Nikki is kind of a special thing. We don't get these every day, so I'm analyzing both articles. So, drop by tomorrow to watch us talk about level design inside Infinity Nikki, and quite specifically how they had to design abilities to fit the level design and the questions that I have about that. Other than that, I hope that you're gonna have a good day. Thank you so much for my Patreon supporters, and toodaloo for now.